Greetings and salutations. I already feel real silly, and we're gonna have to work on me being silly, right? Hey y'all, Kenitra Mozelle of Grace for This, and I'm so excited because this beautiful face on the screen I have known about all of my life, literally.
Pretty much.
And I'm excited because she is fitting into the mold and the vision behind why we are here. So this is the Evolutionary Spotlight, and we're doing the Evolutionary Spotlight because we believe in building what helped you heal. We're all going through some wellness work and we're going through a journey. But as you discover what it is that helps you heal, turn around and build that thing so somebody else can go through that journey a little bit quicker, maybe a little bit faster, maybe a little bit better than what our experience was. We always want to yield the opportunity back. So I have my sister Robyn Woods on the screen with me. She's the founder and CEO of Wine and Mastermind. It is a business for consulting and providing resources to boss moms who are seeking to elevate their influence, their income, and their overall well-being. Hello, Robyn. How are
Hey,
you?
girl. What's
Good.
up, sis? I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Look, I'm excited because sitting here now, I'm remembering us being on the phone maybe a year ago now and talking about this is what's on my heart to do, and yeah, I'm gonna do this, and look at us now. Actually.
Girl, just in a matter of a year, like and everything. I feel like we had some deep conversation, a couple of conversations, right, about
Mhm.
some of the things that we just had on our heart, and to see things just come to fruition right now, like just to see things open up and God move is just, man, it leaves me speechless a lot of times, especially what you're doing, girl. This grace with this, and just to see God's grace over you right now. Listen, all over, all up in here. I see it. It's
God is
amazing.
faithful. God is faithful. He is
Yes,
so
it is.
faithful. And the thing about I guess I'll say the thing about me that I love is that a part of one of my best characteristics is I love to talk about somebody else.
Me
And
too.
right? Like I love to talk about what somebody else is doing. Like, okay, yeah,
Yes,
I'm doing this, but I want to talk about your book.
yes,
Girl, tell me about your this.
yes.
And that is it is what we need in community. And that is one of the three things with Grace for This is about community, it's about conversation, and about collaboration. And we are doing exactly that. This is community. This is a safe place for us because we already do this. We definitely gonna have a conversation because we already be doing that. And
Yes,
now we get to collaborate with the things that we are building for women whose stories connect with our personal story. So
yes.
hallelujah, praise God, and shout out to us.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And it's so funny to hear you say that, because I shared that with you, in terms of, like, I love interviewing people. I love to just let me hear your story. Let me hear about it. Let me bring that out of you so it can help other people. Right. So I enjoy that aspect. So this is different for me, right? Sitting in
Mhm.
this seat. But girl, I'm excited about it. And let me just say, I'm very proud of you. I have to say that I am very proud of the moves that you are making, the boss moves. Okay, keep going. And you'll probably hear me say that again at the end of this, but I just have to say this because I am so proud of you.
I thank you. I
Yeah.
thank you. I thank you. I thank you. And I'm gonna say this, and we ain't gonna get stuck here. But you are a forerunner. You are a forerunner, and I definitely feel like I'm finna cry. But I
Girl,
know
don't make me, because I cry ugly. Don't.
we have had. Look, we have had some experiences with grief
Yes.
that are unique experiences,
Yes.
and I can absolutely say that the bitter part of a grief journey is what is produced because of the pain that you experience. And I
Absolutely.
know we would prefer to have our loved ones with us, but what God is producing and maturing and growing in us, just in our personal lives, has given birth to some, really amazing stuff. So, my sister, hear me, you are a forerunner.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. That
For
means so
sure.
much. Thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Grace for this before. Use grace for this before I got married, girl. Look, praise God. Okay, we gonna breathe.
Yeah, okay. I
We
know
gonna
that's
take
right.
this breath
I
right.
know that's right.
Okay, so For everybody who is watching, y'all know that this month has been, the love month. It's February. Everybody out in their feelings. My boo jank this and my boo did that, and what you gonna give me for Valentine's Day, all that good stuff. But with Grace for this, we are teaching wellness work. We're talking about the wellness work, and it doesn't mean you can't have a relationship that's important to you. But are your loves in order? Have you put your loves in order? One does not particularly outweigh the other. It depends on what moment you're in and what is a necessity. And so, what you have been talking about with Wine and Mastermind, Boss Moms Move Differently. And hold on, wait. Let me put the book on the screen so the people
Yes,
know
girl, put
what
it on
I'm
the
talking
screen.
about. Boom. Here
Boom.
we
Yes.
go. All right. Look.
Yes.
Okay.
Boss moms move differently. Yes,
Yes.
girl. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Yes.
Look, we're gonna promote. We're gonna promote. So tell us a little bit about your inspiration behind writing the book.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, whew, girl, I want to be very transparent about this. And let me say that, kind of talking about grief, right? What you mentioned earlier. Um, it was two pivotal moments for me. And so one was personally and one was professionally,
Mhm.
when I look back. And so this book is really based on my time frame from a matter of like the most recent 5 to 8 years ago. Okay. But personally, what I experienced, I lost three very close family members to me. Okay, this was almost about 9, 10 years ago, which you know the story, right? But this is something that I'm sharing more so in my book. So after experiencing the loss of them, which, grief be griefing, right? Like it was one of those things where I found myself in a place questioning a lot of my faith,
Mhm.
questioning a lot about my spirituality, right? Because for me, I mean, for us, right? Like we were raised in the church. We were born and raised in the church. That's all we knew was God. All we knew was, about the Bible, and spiritually, we just had that spiritual foundation, right? And
Mhm.
so for me, after losing them so tragically back in 2013, it was one of those things where it made me question everything I had learned throughout my entire life,
Yeah.
right? Because this is all I knew. All I knew was the word, and I knew that that was something that I could lean back on. That was something that I could fall back on. And so, after kind of going through a series of, I went through a lot of depression. I went through a lot of just again questioning, doubting, like, and really wondering, like, what is there left for me to do, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm just up there trying to figure out. I'm like, okay, to see that I know, especially, out of, you know those family members, they were God fearing people, right? Knowing
Yeah.
they're God fearing, knowing that, they were in the ministry, they were doing everything that, you
You're
know
supposed to be doing.
right, right. Like they were doing exactly what, the like my mom, Proverbs 31 woman, right? Like they were doing everything they needed to do to enter the kingdom of heaven. Okay. Like
Mhm.
that's just what they were. And so I knew for me, I'm like, I know I'm falling short. So what is left for me? Because I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
nowhere close to, the person that they were at the time. And so it really made me sit back and question, like, what is there left for me to do? Like, what kind of impact, what kind of, what is there left for me to do? And a lot of this, I even talk with, other family members as well. Like we had these conversations, feeling, especially when you get into a place of depression, right? When you get into a place of depression, typically, uh, the way your mind works is that you feel as if there's nothing left, for you.
Mhm.
And so for those of you, if you've ever experienced depression, um you can be in a place where it feels like that's it, right? Like life is done. You have no hope. You really can't see a future ahead of you, right? And that's where I was during that time. And it was for, a long period of time. And but what I came to the conclusion was, after getting married, and I still moved forward and got married, because everything that happened, 4 to 5 days prior to my wedding date.
Wedding
And
day.
by the grace of God,
Mhm.
I still moved forward. I got married. I'm so glad I did. And about maybe a year later, I ended up giving, maybe, no, I'm sorry, about 2 years later, it was about a year and a half later, I ended up becoming pregnant with my daughter, Aubrey. And that's when things changed for me. And so that's when I started having to look at things so differently, because I was like, well, hold up. Like I got a whole baby, right?
Girl, the kids, the game changer, baby.
Like game change. I'm like, wait a minute, and like, so it made me start questioning things about like, how am I going to show up? Like, what is true for me? What do I want out of my life? But now I'm responsible for a whole nother, a whole nother person, right? Like, so what is this really going to look like moving forward? And so that's when I started more so on my self discovery journey, because what I didn't want I didn't want to be the case where I was bringing another child into this world, right? Or starting this new marriage where the foundation was based off of just depression and, just lack and, just not really seeing a hope in the future, right? And so I made the decision. And again, this took a couple of years for me, because again, I got to a point where I was trying to question my religious beliefs versus spiritually. What was right for me spiritually, right? And so I went on this whole discovery of learning about God and learning and really learning about who he was to me spiritually, not religiously, not what everybody else was teaching.
There is a
It's
difference.
a difference. It is a difference. And so when I started, it was nobody but God, because he was the one that laid all of this in my spirit to show me that a lot of what I had been taught, a lot of the things that I thought were true, was more about based off of religious thinking versus spiritual thinking. And so when I allowed myself to open up, because like I say, I got to the point where I was like, God, I don't know what you have for me, but I need you to show me at this point. I need for you to show me your grace, right? All this grace that everybody been talking about, amazing grace, all of these things that I've been reading about, I've been praying about, like, throughout my entire life. And people have been praying for me, like, I'm not seeing it. So I need you to show me who you are in this situation. And it took a while, but eventually God started just giving me, glimpses of what my life could be like, what my responsibility for generations to come even behind me. And so it's a lot of things that God has just been placing in me over the course of years, just showing me of, what's possible, and kind of the way that we can change some of the thinking, right? Some of the generational thinking, some of the religious thinking, and really help to nurture not only, different aspects of my personal life, but also professionally, with me helping other people professionally. And so that's part of the reason why I started my business, Wine Mastermind. So all that to say, the first pivotal moment was after experiencing the loss of my family, right? And the second pivotal moment was professionally, where I ended up going into a role, hadn't really addressed a lot of issues, I would say, the way I probably should have, such as going through therapy, right? Like simply just going through therapy, getting to work.
Hold on, pause 1 second.
Yeah.
Let me throw something in here.
Okay, go ahead.
What Robyn just said was, she recognizes that something that God instructs us to do, and something that happens with or without us being conscious of it, is that we will be fruitful and we will multiply. If you are not intentional about what you are and what you will multiply, we will do some damage, and we will try and recover from it later.
Yes.
But if we are honest with ourselves up front, if we are repentant, if I can say, of the things that we've not done right, because we will hold ourselves in a bondage and a jail because of some mistakes that we'll make. If we forgive ourselves and if we'll be honest with ourselves, you can move forward and you'll be confident in what it is. You'll be more confident. I'll say it that way. You'll be more confident in what it is that you are producing. And I love the fact that you explained that so gracefully about how you experience the depression after the grief and the loss, and then those pivotal moments with you becoming a mom, which is the ultimate be fruitful and multiply. You made a little human.
Come on, a whole person.
Be just like us. They're gonna be whatever we teach them or model them to be, right? So had to point it out, y'all. We gonna be fruitful and we gonna multiply, but what's your fruit looking like?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Go ahead, girl.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. No, I agree. And just to add to a point that you just made, for me, it was being intentional. It was because you have a decision, right? And so I realized that I had a decision to either stay where I was right? Like to stay depressed, to stay, at just sad and feeling as if like hopeless, right? Like just staying in that place. Or I had the decision, and I remember God literally telling me this, right? Like after I had a lot of conversations with him, but I remember I was in bed one night, and I don't remember at during the time frame this happened, but I remember God speaking to me. And I remember him telling me that either you have the decision to stay where you are or you have a decision to move forward. And I'll show you how you can move forward. Right. And so it was in that place where I remember I surrendered to, I'm like, I'm just gonna trust because you can't go any further than rock bottom, right? And so I knew
Woo.
for me,
Yeah.
I knew that if I did not make an intentional decision to move forward, I knew that it was not going to be a good result for me personally. I knew it was not going to end right. And so when I took that step of faith, because it is faith, right?
Yeah.
And I started to lean more on what is God telling me versus what is everybody else trying to tell me, right? Because you got a lot of people trying to tell you God's going to do this, which is great. And I appreciate people speaking into me, right? But it's nothing like having God being able to speak directly to you, right? Like having that experience. Girl, it's nothing like it. Like when you had that conversation, and it's like this peace that he gave me, even in that process of kind of, because I went through a whole self-discovery journey. Right. And so
2021 into 2022.
girl,
Oh, yeah. That was my last year for sure.
Yeah. No, seriously, it's like that self-discovery journey, but it's nothing like having that confirmation and just having that peace. It's just that peace, that unspeakable peace, right? Like you really
Yeah.
can't explain it, but he gave me the peace to be able to move forward. And when I stopped trying to control the situation, right? When I stopped trying to come on, girl. I have been known. Anybody who knows me knows I used to be a control freak. I did, and I wanted everything to be a certain way, right? And so even during that time, it was like control. It even got down to the point of controlling how people respond, how people I'm waiting on an apology, right? Like why hasn't this person told me why I'm waiting on an apology before I can move forward? I need an apology, right? And it was like God had he literally he had to work on me to show me that you don't need an apology to move forward. You don't even need an explanation to move forward. Because a lot of things even to this day I still don't have a full explanation around why and what right. But it was like God, literally it was a faith walk where he had to work with me and show me like, hey, if you just trust me, let me show you what's possible, right? And so fast forward into professionally for me, where I ended up going through a job where I was just burnt out, overworked, overstressed, and now this is the place where this is a season where I have kids, right? And so I'm trying to figure out, like, number one, who the heck am I? Because I lost my body to myself for a total of 4 years, right? Like having 2 kids back to back, so I didn't know who I was, and just kind of going through the grief and then burnout on going through a career and then basically trying to start a whole new life with a family. It was just a lot. And so it really made me sit down and I had to put in the work. I had to go through therapy. I had to go through journaling and everything.
Come on, get this wellness work. We got to do the work.
Seriously. It took being intentional though. It took like not calling people just crying and complaining, because those days were over for me. Like it's now, I will say, I think there's a season to do that, right? Like you have to get it out. And that's what these communities are for, right? To be able to talk about it, to have that community, to collaborate and talk about how can I move forward, right? But what I realized for me was just calling a friend and sit there and talk about it every day was not going to help me. It wasn't going to help them either. So I had to figure out, how can I move forward? Like, what does this look like? And so that's, for me, it was more journaling.
That's a good point about like differentiating between calling somebody to complain about it, having a place to vent, and then having community where you can have a safe conversation about it. That's like 3 different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you got to determine what's productive. Like which one is gonna serve you, but also serving other people. Because a lot of times when we talk, right, like when we share that in a community setting, especially when it's a safe place, oftentimes not only are you helping yourself, but you're probably helping somebody else.
Mhm.
You
People
know?
say all the time, "Ooh, girl, I was thinking it, but I wasn't gonna say it."
Yes.
All the time.
All the time. I get that
Mhm.
even with like Wine and Mastermind, a lot of the members there, like it and which again, part of the reason why I started that was because as an entrepreneur, I found myself in a bubble. I found
Mm,
myself kind of in a place where I was not sharing a lot of the struggles that I was having as a mom, right? As a boss mom, trying to
yeah.
run a business, trying to stay in my job.
Ooh,
How
girl,
do I do all of this, right? Like, and so that's what prompted me to start a community.
I
So
got one. I got one. Woo, why? Why do we do this superwoman, this cape situation? Like anybody outside of us can look in at us and say, "Ooh, she doing a lot. Ooh, she ought to be tired." And we don't give ourselves the room to be human. Like what expectation do we have of people outside of us towards us? And we will live inside of our own preconceived notions about what they believe we should do. Like, oh,
preconceived though, but it's preconceived, and it's like, who placed those expectations on you? Because a lot of times I'm asking, I'm like, who told you that you had to wear that cape, right?
mhm,
Who told you that you had to?
yeah,
Because you really don't have to. And like you say, a lot oftentimes I see it, and I can say this with the most confidence because I've worked, I worked previously as an HR leader. So I've
mhm,
worked with hundreds of people in all kind of backgrounds, races, culture, like you name it, right? But one of the things that I noticed was that, especially among Black women, is that we're the ones who, especially in a corporate setting, and the ones who were like really moving up the corporate ladder, we're the ones who were all the way burnt out, tired, exhausted, right? Because not only were we trying to handle the demands of our roles, but we're also trying to be the superwoman in our households, right? And
mhm,
and some of them, married, single, it didn't matter. Like it really did
yeah,
not matter. It was just we just felt like that was our obligation to be that person where, we get sick. Oh no, I'm sick. I don't feel good, but let me get up and go into work, right? Like
for
you don't know
sure.
when to stop. And that's a lot of that. That's what I talk about in my book because I do believe that we got to get a handle on it. Sis, we got to get a handle
Yeah,
on it because we're burning ourselves out and it's causing other issues. It's causing other health issues,
yeah.
right? Like we
Mhm.
feel mentally exhausted, but it's causing other issues and other underlying issues and we don't even realize it.
Mm. So look, now that leads me to my questions for you.
Come
'Cause I
on,
tell you, you a forerunner, all right.
girl.
So,
Real.
so my question is this: What what tips would you give to the boss woman, the boss mom, who is moving into a new place entrepreneurially, to
Mm,
balance things? Because I have so many moving pieces. And in the same sense, I submit to the leading, of the voice of the Holy Spirit. We believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, y'all. So just in case you're not clear, a lot of what I have done has been the voice of God saying, "Hey, go do this." But it's still my nature that I'm having to work myself out of to go and go and go and go and go. So like what are like three tips? If you got three, no pressure for the three, but what are three? And if it's in the book, girl, tell us the chapter so we can get it.
yeah.
But what would you say? Because I definitely feel like I'm the queen of three things. Every time I go live, it's like three things. It's always three things. But what would you say to that? Because I don't
Yeah.
want to not steward what I have well because I haven't positioned my loves in order, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I just love it when you say position your loves in order. I'm gonna have to take that one. I got to
Go ahead.
take.
Hashtag.
But I mean, right. Because I mean, girl, I got so many that I could share. And it is. I do share a lot of these in my book. Boss Moms Move Differently. But if I had to pick three for the purposes of today, um, number one, I would say to simplify this, right? So the way I position my book, I break it up into three pillars. Okay, so I have a framework, and the framework is called 3R, and I break it up by redefining motherhood, reprioritizing your well-being, and reinvent your life. Okay,
Mhm.
and so out of that, if I could kind of break this up into into three parts, right? The first thing I would say is to, oh, there you go, y'all.
I see that.
Be
That's what it say at the bottom.
influenced.com.
That read time we prioritize and reinvent.
Yes,
All right, so
yes,
can you
that's
give
the
us some of the
framework.
key?
Yes. And so if I had to break that down, I would say redefining motherhood. And what I talk about with redefining motherhood is that a lot of us, we have certain influences in our life, right? Where we, we've watched our parents, we've watched our mother figure, our mother or our mother-like figure in our lives when we were younger at a young age. Maybe they were, the type of mom who were putting themselves last, right? Like they were, they were the type of mom who was overworked. You found them, often tired, rarely going on vacations, rarely doing things for themselves, right? I know at least that was my mom. My mom was very hard working. She was really committed to her family, right? And it was 5 of us. So, I mean, as anybody could imagine, five whole kids, okay?
Old kid.
5 whole kids. And as anyone could imagine, like, I mean, when do you have time for anything, right? Like, and my dad was very active in our household.
Mhm.
Like, he was active, he was present, he was, holding down. You could see him, cleaning and cooking and doing other things as well, right? But even with that, my mom, a lot of times, was still the one who, there was an obligation. There was an unsaid, unspoken obligation
Mm.
where she felt that she had to do certain things. And I'm sure that was because during the time when she was little, that's
Mhm.
what
Get to
motherhood
the top.
represented, right? Like that's what motherhood represented. And so for me, I didn't see my mom actually like, taking self-care days and going out, vacation and doing things until she was well into her 60s. Right. And
Mhm.
so for me, that's what made me even sit back and question, like, do I really want to wait until my 60s before I actually start like
Yeah.
living life, like experiencing everything that this life has to offer? And times have changed since then, right? Like, and
Yeah.
so a lot of us, we're still applying those same principles from back in the day when we were younger, right? Like,
Mhm.
and we're still trying to show up in a way at the way mothers were representing themselves back when we were coming up, in the 70s, 80s, right? Like a
Mhm.
lot of us are still trying to show up that way, but times have changed, things are different. And the demands that we have on us, and this is research out there to even show like the demands of, how we're working and the amount of time that a lot of us as mothers spend working has increased significantly from the time that when our parents were working back in the day, right? And
Mhm.
so those things have changed. And so what I would say is number one, becoming more aware of how you're operating. And I say that to say, like, how are you operating? Like, what do you feel you're obligated to really do? Like, what is your definition of? Because some of us we talk about, good. Oh, you're a good mom. You're a
Mhm.
good mom, right? Or you
Mhm.
have people who shame you, right, based on certain things that you do. But what I talk about in the book is to really define like what is motherhood for you? Like what does that really feel like for you? What do you feel like you need to do in order to feel as if you're doing your job as a mom? Not based on everybody else's expectations, not based on society's expectations, right? Like what does that really look like for you? And what does it look like to be successful for you? Like
Mhm.
do you believe that it's possible for you to actually run a business, right? Run a
Mhm.
business and be a mom, or do you feel like innately, like do you really believe that you got to wait until all your kids are grown before you actually start pursuing a business, right? Like what do
Yeah.
you really believe? Because at the end of the day, whatever you believe, you're going to act on it. I don't care what you say.
Come on now.
I don't care what you say. Like I say that because a lot of times, and I talk about this, we have a lot of us have a lot of the tools, a lot of the resources that we need to move forward and to do things differently. But because of the fact that our belief system is just so different,
Ooh, girl.
change it. We we we
That's
just
so
gotta
good.
change it. And I think that's where, so a lot of times that's the reason why I know for myself why I may say one thing, especially in the past. I would say one thing, oh, I want this, I want that, right? But I would be doing something totally different. And it was not in alignment with what I was saying that I really wanted. And that was because my
Mhm.
belief system was just not in alignment with what I said I really wanted. And so the first thing I would say is before you even, especially as a mom, trying to pursue a business, right? Like trying to grow a business, I would say really take some time to identify what you truly believe about
Mhm. Yeah.
success, about your role. What does this really look like for you, right? And then the second thing I would say is to um carve out, really honor your whole self, really honor your whole self, like protecting your mental space, protecting your, really, really nourishing your body, right? Physically, mentally, like finding time to do that. I'll give it a quick example what I mean by that. So I remember again, I'm going through this whole situation of raising like younger kids, right? And I remember going to the doctor and my doctor was like, "You have anxiety." She was like, "Girl, you got anxiety. You just need to just sit down. You're doing too much. You're trying to do too much, right?" And I remember I was like, okay, like anxiety will not defeat me, right? And so I had to start carving out time where I was like working out more. So I had to start working out more, down to the point where I was working out sometimes even with my kids in the room, right? Like they were under 2 years old. I had one child on my back. I'm trying to do push-ups on my back. The other one right up under me, right? Like I did whatever it took to make sure that I was really taking time to exercise and really take care of myself, because a lot of that stuff, it starts with just taking care of our bodies.
Yeah.
It does. And I know some people say, oh, everybody says that, right? Everybody talks about the whole, exercise and eating the right foods and all this stuff, right? But I mean, it's the reason why it's out there. Like it's science. It's science based. Like this is science. This is something that foundationally we got to start taking care of our whole self, our bodies first. So like really finding out what works for us to make sure that even if it's, 15, 20 minutes out of the day, making sure you take that time, making sure you have some quiet time.
Yeah.
To be able to do some things. Because a lot of times what I've learned for me is that when I can have that quiet space, that's when I feel like God is speaking to me, right? Like I feel like God is speaking to me. I'm praying, you meditate, whatever it is for you, but like finding that time to really just take care of yourself. And I talk about a lot of other ways in the book, but if I could kind of summarize that, I would say take some time, even if it's 30 minutes to an hour, if it's 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes at night, to just have some time to yourself. I'm not talking about watching,
No.
Netflix.
No stimuli.
No. Like because sometimes rest includes taking a break from technology, not looking at your phone. A lot of us, we're looking at social media, right? And so sometimes we feel like we got to do more just because of what we see in other people doing on social media.
Pressure being applied.
Pressure. Right? Like we're comparing ourselves. And so some of that stuff, I always say, go back and ask yourself, like, where does the obligation for or the need to feel as if we got to do all these things, where is it stemming from? Is it stemming from other influences around us, or is this stemming from maybe social media? Maybe we're watching other people do certain things and we feel like, oh, I got to get up and do that too. Maybe I got to start. Do you really want to start a business? Right? Like for some people, it's like, you see a lot of people, the whole entrepreneurship movement. You saw the Great Resignation and all this stuff.
A little fast.
People like, I'm out. Right. Like, and so now everybody's like, oh, I want to have a business. But at the end of the day, business ain't no joke. Like running a whole business. Like, so you gotta ask yourself, do you really want to run a business? Or are you doing it because you feel like it's a fad right now, right? And then the last thing I would say is, even going back to honoring yourself, creating space. Let me talk about that real quick. Creating space for things that you want to do. So if you know that you really want to start a business, right? You want to have a thriving, growing business. I always tell people, and I actually have a coach now. She talks about this all the time. She said, an hour a day can change your life. One thing I would tell you is, because trying to run a business, if you're working a job, if you're running a family, right? What you'll find is that it can be so overwhelming because you're like, I don't even know where to start, right? I'm always on the move. I'm always on the go. What I tell people all the time is dedicate at least an hour. At least an hour to knock out what is that one thing, right? That or the top 3 things that you want to get done for that day. Focus on that versus trying to, accomplish the world all in one day. That's when it gets overwhelming. Everything.
The world. I'm gonna take you world today.
I'm gonna take that out, right? But then that's when you get burned out, right? That's when you get burnt out. And that's been my story, because I remember I would write down my agenda, all the list of things I need to get done for like my business after work, right? And I would be overwhelmed because I'm like trying to knock out 6 things at one time versus, okay, I have what are my 3 goals that I want to hit for the whole week?
Yeah.
So that's what I do. What do I want to hit by the end of the week? And then what are those 1 to 3 things that I want to hit each day? and I
Yeah.
dedicate at least an hour a day to get those things done.
That's right.
And for me, what I found is that it helps me to celebrate. Like I have more mini micro wins.
Yes, I
And
love this.
yeah,
Yes.
it's like I have more micro wins. I feel like I've accomplished something because it's a long game. When you're
Yeah.
in business, it's a long game. It's not something that you're gonna just jump up, in 1 week, and then now all of a sudden you got you've met the financial goals and all these other things, and the impact that you want to make. Right? It's a long game, and so in order to really sustain that long game, you got to kind of hey, bite-sized pieces. I tell people always look at it, bite-sized pieces, and put it in chunks of time where you can actually accomplish some of those things. So that's why I talk about when I say create space. Creating space. If you know you want to start a business or start a movement or whatever it is, right? Or even growing your career, like dedicating time to actually nourish what you're trying to do, what you're trying to create, because you're building something completely new.
Yeah.
So
That's
time
good.
for yourself, space for whatever it is you're trying to do, your business, whatever the case is. And then the last thing I would say, making sure you have clearly defined goals, like making sure
Mm.
again, it's about being intentional, right? Like how can you ensure that you have these overarching goals for like the year, you break them up in quarters, like what are those small actionable steps you're going to be taking to accomplish that? Who are the people you need to be around? What rooms you need to be in?
Come on, rooms.
Come on, rooms. Like, and for some of us, especially if you're going into a new space, like it's out of your comfort zone, which I would encourage everybody to step out of your comfort zone,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially when you're trying to create something new. That's what it's
Mhm.
going to take. But I mean, for a lot of us, it's all about like, how can I make? I have to say this. What is one thing I can do to make to step out of my comfort zone? What is one thing like
That's a good
every
question.
week? What does that look like? Who are the people that I need to connect with? Because for some of us, that's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable asking
Mhm.
or even seeking out new relationships with people. So you're literally having to become that person. And in order to become that person, you got to start doing those things, right?
Yeah.
You got to start doing it. So you can't just throw out, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to have this business, right? But what does it really take for you to have that? Who is the person that you really need to become?
Yeah. While
In
you
order-
were talking, I just heard we have, and I feel like this hits in life. We have to make up our mind that we are perpetually the student.
Girl, yes,
We
absolutely,
you should want to learn something new, but
yes,
it also positions you in a place of humility that I don't know it all.
exactly.
So let me make sure I'm positioning myself in such a way that I can receive. My mama, y'all, this is my mama. We've been saying this for years at our church. We would say, y'all need to be fat. FATT. Faithful, available, teachable, and trainable. I never
Oh,
forget it. But
oh,
we
I
have
need to write that
to
down. That's a good one.
fat, faithful, available, teachable, and trainable.
And
And I
trainable.
feel like that's really something that we can live by, and you can apply
Yes.
it to you showing up for yourself. Be faithful to showing up for yourself.
Yes.
Be
Oh, I
open
like
and
that.
available with giving yourself the space and the time that you need. Be
Yes.
teachable, like be open to learn something new from somebody else and be willing to be trained in that thing if it's not something that you don't have, if it's not something that you have mastery in, because
Oh,
we've always got room to master something else. So be trainable because I can teach you something and you not be trained in it. It's
that's right.
different. Yeah.
That's so true. That's so, and you made me just think about something, especially, just started, like, let's say starting out a business or, for some of us, we get stuck, right? So like we get stuck because we're trying to start a business. We're not seeing the momentum that we were expecting, or certain things don't really go as planned, right? Which in
Yeah.
most cases is not.
Wrong. Adjust
it's
your expectations.
it's just your expectations. It's not gonna go. But I think being comfortable with understanding that it's not gonna be perfect, right? Because some
Mhm.
of us we want everything laid out a certain way before we get started, right? Before we start moving forward, we want to feel that comfort. We want
Yeah.
to feel everything, like all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted. My parents were educators, and that's what they talked about all the time, right? Like
Yep.
it was you want it pristine,
Look, you
and
know what? Let me say that real quick. Don't lose your thought. I think we can maybe make a little textbook on the residual effects of being a millennial raised by an educated parent. I feel like we need
Ooh,
to collab on a book because I think we got some very, very
girl,
close similarities.
that's so true. That you know what? It's so true. And it's a thing. It really is. I never even thought about that, but it is a thing. Like, especially being raised under educators.
Look, if your parents were saved and they was a teacher and you was a millennial, we got a
Yeah,
support system
we
for y'all because
we
we
got a
got
whole
some things.
support system. Yes. Cause I mean, and it's like it like anything else, right? Like there are a lot of qualities about that is great, right? It's so good, like, and it's helped us
Uh-huh.
to get where we are now.
Strong, solid. We some solid people now. We solid out here. We gonna get the thing done now.
Yes,
Trust, and it's gonna be as almost as perfect as it could possibly be.
yes,
But we
yes.
gonna be the lost some sleep. We gonna be a little paranoid, and we gonna be sensitive if you tell me about my stuff being wrong. That's all.
Exactly. Girl, you better listen. Can we start today? Can we start that book like today? Because what I tell you, that for me, that was my setback though. For
Yeah,
a
yeah,
very long time. For
yeah.
a very long time. Like even starting Wine and Mastermind. That
Mhm.
that was my setback. Writing this book, that was my setback. It was like feeling like I had to have everything together before I even got started, right?
Yeah.
And so when I came to the conclusion, I started coming around people who were like imperfect people who
Mhm.
were like really doing it though. Like again,
Yeah.
putting yourself around in rooms with people like that,
Mhm.
man,
Mhm.
things changed for me.
Yes.
When I realized, I was like, oh, I don't have to, like, as long as I'm putting forth my best, right?
Mhm.
And I'm doing the research, I'm putting in the work, but at the end of the day, I'm not sitting here waiting a whole 2 years before I decide that I'm gonna start taking
Ooh,
action,
child.
right?
Yes. Mhm.
I'm not
Do it.
sitting on it. I'm gonna move forward and take action. Girl, that's when it was a game changer for me. So
Mhm.
I say that because again, some people, if you're in business or wanting to start a business, sometimes that could be the part that's stifling.
Yeah.
Sometimes that could be the thing that's just holding you back.
Yeah.
So yeah, but in terms of wellness, that is a part of it because even with your own wellness journey, right? Like sometimes we feel like everything has to be perfect, or even down to, okay, let me go back to moms. I have to share this. I think this is my point that I was gonna make earlier, but even down to moms feeling as if, like, let's say when it comes to like childcare, right? And I know this is a slippery slope. So and I know that everything is relative to age, okay, when I talk about kids, because the way you may ask for help for with a newborn, right, may be completely different for how you may ask for help for, like, for me, I got a 7 and a 6 year old right now. Okay. So it's gonna be different. But sometimes we feel like certain things have to be 100% perfect, with how we're showing up, and maybe even with our kids before we decide to start asking for help. I'm just saying, before we
Mhm.
start asking people to support us and help us, sometimes we need a break.
Period.
Like it's
Period.
okay to ask your spouse or your significant other.
Mhm. That's good.
You can trust them just because, like, for example, me with my husband, for the longest time, you know, because I wanted my kids, I want to make sure that they had their veggies and all this stuff. Like, I don't want you to feed them. I got them. Let me
Huh?
feed.
We can't feed the kids.
Let me feed them. I got them. No, no, I'll change the diaper. Don't you worry about it. He is clearly capable
Capable.
of doing this. Now they may not have veggies for dinner. Okay, and that's totally fine. It's not like he's gonna be keeping them for a for a lifetime by himself, right? Like, but
Mhm.
if I want to break away and take some time, just have my own, right? Like a evening to go out with some friends and chill out. The kids will be okay. I promise
Which
you.
you
And
did
some of us, we try
recently.
to, we just try to keep it.
You did that
What?
recently.
What was that?
Applause. I saw you was out with your
I
girl. I
did
saw you out with your
for my
girl.
birthday.
Enjoying it.
Yes,
Mhm.
girl. For my birthday, and I'm gonna have another one coming up too. I'm gonna have another one coming up. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it helps because my husband, he kind of pushes me out. He's like, "No, you need to go.
Yay. Look,
You need to."
shout out your husband real quick, right? Because
Antoine. Yes, yes. He's definitely a good support system. So I tell people, make sure you have a good support system around. It don't have to be necessarily your spouse, right? Like, but
mhm.
people in general who are going to, you know, they're looking at your well-being as well. They're watching. They know when it's like, sis, you need to take a break. You don't have to be in that work today. Take a break. Let's go out. Let's go for dinner real quick, right? Like you need people in your corner like that.
On the collaboration piece, because with community conversation and collaboration, that's a
Yes.
really important factor that you just brought up is the people who look at you as a whole person. Because you got some people who on this entrepreneur type tip and they like slave drivers and they pushing you and they pushing you. But you need people who are your support system who understands the whole you, spirit, soul, and body. And they will help redirect you in moments when part of you is not getting what it needs. The triune, the third,
Yes.
every third is just as important. So keeping all of those, I see like I see a pie chart and you want each third to be evenly, divided or whatever. So yeah, like your support system needs to be with people who one are modeling that. Loud noise. You hear that, huh?
I hear it. I hear it. I heard that one. I didn't hear it earlier.
But you want them to actually model that as well. You want them to be able to communicate. There it is. You hear me now?
Okay. I hear you. Yep.
You want them to be able to model that behavior to you as well as correct you on stuff. Because sometimes we will disqualify people because we don't feel like you ain't doing it for yourself. So how you gonna say something to me? We have to check that because we will give people that energy real quick. But that was really important.
Oh yeah. Oh, I agree, girl. Okay, tell me you got that in a framework though, like that, because that sounds like a whole. Listen, sis, that's a framework in itself. Like I can when you kind of painted that picture, I saw it, and that's something that we all should go by, right? Like especially when you say when you're selecting your community, being very intentional about those people who are in alignment with your values around spirituality, right? Like mentally, physically, like what does that really look like? I think that is so true and so important for a lot of us. It's being intentional with people like that, because I I say this honestly, there are some people, like again, there are some slave drivers. And okay, let me go back. I remember when I first started on my entrepreneurship journey, I was trying to get every piece of information that I could about being an entrepreneur, being a Black entrepreneur at that, right? And my husband, he's been an entrepreneur for years, like before me and him even met. He was an entrepreneur. He's been in business, right? And so when I started really, when I came to the conclusion that I was going to start my business, I wanted every piece of information that I possibly could about entrepreneurship, right? So that was YouTube University. Okay. I was all over YouTube. I was all over podcasts, and I was watching any and everybody. Okay. Which was great. And so I found myself trying to, I'm going to say it was great in one way, but then in another way, in other ways, it was not so great. And let me explain why. Because I found myself trying to emulate and trying to put certain things in practice of what I was, learning throughout this whole, watching YouTube and watching to see what some certain strategies that people were doing, right? Especially when I was in real estate, because that's really when my whole entrepreneurship journey started. When I was in real estate, I'm in real estate investing, right? And so I'm following people, but then when I realized later on, and I feel like this is a coach who told me this, being careful about following too many people, right? Like listening to too many people. Like you really do want to find people who you're more in alignment, who get you, right? Who understands those areas in your life that you're really trying to develop, or that are important to you. Because sometimes you following somebody who is not in a similar space as you, right? Like it may have worked for them. It may have worked for them and it may be great for them, but you're in a totally different season of your life. And so if you're trying to apply those same principles to what they're doing, it's likely not going to work for you. And you're going to find it. And I found that often where I was, this was, again, this is maybe 7 years ago, right? Like just trying to watch any and everybody. But when I started being a little bit more specific about the type of people that I was following, and that kind of goes back to community, right? Then I feel like that's when I was able to find my tribe. That's when I found my people, because I was being intentional about seeking out those types of people who got me. So I do believe that that is important, especially when, you're trying to grow something, or again, if you're just trying to go in general, finding people who are in
Mhm.
alignment with your values and who you are is crucial. I just think
Yeah.
I think it's crucial. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Look, I say y'all done got the gems on today.
Girl, this has been so good. This has been so, and I could talk. Like we could probably continue this for a good 2 hours. I
Look, we'll have to see if we can do another circle back or get you to a Wellness Works event because we've got so many different things
yes,
that we're gonna be doing. Just with grace for this, like it's so much because everything that we've said, just even in our conversation, is a different niche of support that somebody needs. And
yeah,
so, we're in a unique position and I'm so grateful we're not the only ones doing it. Shout out to all of the us's out there who are building,
girl.
making room and supporting one another as we build these individual things. And it's kind of like I see like women are going to connect and they're going to rotate through the different branches of the support that they need. And just like you said, what niche of community you need. And I'm deciding to do real estate or I'm just doing the wellness work in general. Let me just focus on that.
That's right.
We have stages just in life. So I believe all of us have a piece of the puzzle. Everybody has a role in this body,
Yep.
that we are building. So to be able to identify your sisters who are out here building and say, okay, you come talk with me. Okay, I'm gonna come talk with you. All right, let's get the people over here because I know somebody who need this and you know somebody who need that. Like,
Yes.
and I believe that it is kingdom. And
Yes.
I'll say this, like with my business, with Events Bonafide, I definitely went through that experience where I was seeking out examples and models and all these different things and found an amazing coach. And I have been able to sit up under her and evolve as a professional and then see the woman of faith and the person on their wellness journey evolve. And so I know that I am doing businesses. I mean, I'm doing events that specifically deal with kingdom and community based impact. If
Love
you
it.
got a kingdom or community based project or something like that, I'm 100% for that. And wellness work is kingdom and community because we need to be whole people. So finding out, what your thing is and then connecting with people whose thing fits with your thing. Like literally what you just said is what I have been experiencing in the last like maybe 2 months. And it's clicking like, sis, this is your business. This is the events you're
Yes.
going to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a beautiful
Hmm.
thing. It's a beautiful thing. Like I say, I'm proud of you. I appreciate the community that you're building, the doors that you're opening for so many other people, and just giving people that space, right, to be able to just share their journey and just really learn from one another. I think it's a big
Yeah.
deal and it's needed. There is
Yeah.
a need, and again, that safe space, because people,
Hmm.
when you can go to certain community. Let me just say this: as a result of the pandemic, right? A lot of communities have become virtual, right? And so sometimes it is hard. This is my struggle. It was hard for me to determine, like, because it's hard sometimes when you're doing things virtually, like what is really the connection here, right? Like what am I
Yeah.
really gaining? Like, is this community or is this really a platform or a group that maybe I'm just getting resources from, right? Like you got to kind of know the difference of what
Mm.
your true
That's good.
community is. You know what I mean? So like I appreciate you building community. We see it, we feel it, and I'm just so grateful for you. I can't wait to see what grace for this and everything else you got going on. I can't wait for this to kick off, girl. I cannot wait. Okay, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
there.
Look, God's grace is sufficient
Yes,
for me,
yes,
for me. So for everybody who has been watching this, look, if you got to this point, you ought to be juiced,
yes.
right? Okay, you should have the strength to run on in any direction you need to run. So thank you,
Exactly,
Robin Wood.
exactly.
Tell everybody how they can get connected with you.
Yes, yes, yes. So, you all, first, I want you to check out my book. For those of you, it's really for boss moms, high achieving women. You know, there's more in you to do on this earth. You're not waiting, and you're just trying to figure out, like, how do I step into what I feel led to do, right? I want you to check out my book, Boss Moms Move Differently. This is a guide to help moms redefine motherhood, reprioritize your well-being, and reinvent your life. So you can check it out at bmmdbook.com. That's B as in boy, MMD as in dog, book.com. And that's where you can purchase your pre-sale copy. Okay. And also you can find me at Instagram at the Robyn Woods. I would say hit me up on Instagram at the Robyn Woods. Yes, right there. Because I'll be honest with you, I just really started growing my Instagram page. I had another one, but I just started growing a brand new IG page. So I would love for you to hit me up. If you have any questions, if you just want to connect, I would love to connect with you, especially if you're a boss mom. Like, I just love connecting. You can also check out my Facebook group. This is the business that I run, Wine and Mastermind. It's called Wine and Mastermind, and this is a Facebook group. So check it out. All right. So, but thank you again, Kenitra. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I want to throw the book up here on the screen for y'all one more time. Get your pre-sale copy. The website is in the description.
Yes.
Already. So you guys go down and tap that. And of course, thank you, Robyn, for being here with us. Thank you for being one of my sisters. Praise be unto God. I appreciate the sovereignty of God and how, we don't know until well into adulthood that God places certain people in our lives because He's going to have our purposes to complement one another so that we make a bigger impact in the world. So thank you for being who you are. Thank y'all for following Grace for this. We're going to do an evolutionary spotlight every single month, and you're going to meet a woman of faith who has taken ownership of her wellness journey, personally, relationally, and professionally. So connect with us there. And there's going to be more to come. Get ready for what's next. We got Wellness Works. Let me say this one thing. Wellness Works Summit. This is a hybrid summit on March 11th. It is going to be in Augusta, Georgia, but it's hybrid. So you'll be able to stream the conversations, the mental health panel. We're going to do some self-care spotlight so you can capture that. And if you can get to Augusta to be in the building, we're going to have an assortment of vendors who are providing tools and resources to help you take ownership of your wellness journey. So we are creating spaces where you can get what you need. Of course, you can go to KenitraMozelle.com/Grace for this. Thank you, Robyn. We'll talk to you guys later. God bless you and peace out.